So before you marry somebody, you need to try to figure out what the stuff I'm not going to be his wife. Don't get me wrong, I love me. But that's stuff I don't like about me. So you know that stuff I ain't going to like about you. So foundationally, I want you to realize that that's the context. So here, every relationship has these issues. So we get with people, and you begin, but you begin at a certain level. And here how this church and Paul began on this relationship. It's amazing when you read it, and think about how folks that you've gotten involved with, when you first got with them, how you could have just basically said the same thing Paul said. Tell somebody, don't forget how we were. Look at verse 13 to verse 15. Here's what Paul writes. He says, brethren, I urge you. I'm sorry, 13. You know that because of physical infirmities, I preached the gospel to you at the first. And my trial, which was in my flesh, you did not despise it or reject me because of that, but you received me. You received me like I was an angel from God, even like I was Jesus himself. What then was the blessing that you enjoyed? Where is it now? For I bear you witness that, if possible, at that time, you would have plucked out your own eyes and given them to me. Have I therefore, he says, become your enemy? Paul describes this relationship that they initially had. He said, I want you to know that there were issues that I had. Paul said, I had some kind of an infirmity. And there's all kind of debate about was the infirmity that Paul had. He talks about in the church of 2 Corinthians, but he talks about his thorn in the flesh. Was it his eye? Because he says inside this text, they take out that eye and gave it to him. He talks here about this infirmity. There's something about his appearance that would appear. There was something about his appearance that would be the kind of thing that most folk would reject him over. He said, but you did not, in spite of that, which others may have rejected me over, it didn't bother. You accepted me knowing my issues. Now, many of you have, as you met people, and folk have known about you, or they said, they can declare to you, I love you because you knew I had issues, and you accepted me with all my issues. And Paul says here that in spite of all that I had, all the reasons you may have chosen to say, you're not going to talk to me, you're not going to deal with me. Paul said, in spite of all of that, you accepted me. So what makes you connect with somebody is that you feel like they accept you. Okay, now in John chapter 4, there's a story about a woman at the well. And the woman at the well, she was experiencing a loneliness because she went to the well at the wrong time of day, the time of day when nobody else at the well, and she went to the well way out where nobody was going. Now, history would suggest to you that she did that, number one, because if she went to the well at if she had gone to the well at regular water gathering time, she'd been there with the other women. And being there at the other women, at the well, women getting water at the well together tend to have conversations about, let me just say this here. Women tend to be the hardest on two people. They're hard on themselves and they're hard on other women. So she didn't go to the well at water gathering time because she'd be the topic of discussion at water gathering time. She went to a well that nobody would see her at. So, but what's amazing about her is a statement she makes about Jesus, because actually, in my opinion, she gives the best definition of what it means to not feel lonely, or why folk feel lonely. The Bible says that when she went back into the city of Samaria, she told the people, she said, you got to come and meet a man who knows me. Most of us spend all our time hiding and not letting nobody know you. And so because of that, she said she was known. Paul here inside this passage talks about how, I want you to be reminded, he suggests inside the text, I want you to be reminded that actually, when we first met each other and dealt with each other, you saw me so wonderfully, you saw me so beautifully. He said, you accepted me with any shortcomings or weaknesses I may have had. There was nothing about me you allowed to be an issue of a barrier between you and me. You loved me and accepted me as a, he said, matter of fact, y'all treated me so good. We got together when I arrived there. You did me so good. You treated me like was an angel, he said. He said, no second thought. Matter of fact, you treated me so good, you treated me like I was Jesus. That's good treatment. And then he asked the question, so where's the joy? We had all this joy together, man. I loved you, y'all loved me. We were so bonded, so connected together. Where is the joy that we had together? Our relationship has changed so dramatically. I want to know what's gone wrong. He reminds them of how their relationship was. Tell somebody, don't forget how we were. And tell them, look at how we are. Verse 16, he says, we're like enemies. How does a relationship go? From being, I felt like you treated me like I was an angel. I felt like I was being treated like I was Jesus himself. You treated me good. Y'all look like y'all have really good, healthy, bonded relationships. And you may not relate to this, but there are actually people who have relationships, and they began so beautifully and so wonderfully, and now they look at the person they once said, you look like an enemy. Y'all didn't know I had that experience, I'm sure. But Paul says to them, he says, now it's like we're enemies. Now he says, it's like we're enemies because I tell you the truth. Now, first of all, contextually first. Contextually, Paul is saying, because I'm telling you the truth about grace, it's breaking our relationship. And so, because Paul is an apostle speaking by inspiration of God, his truth is the truth. Yeah. But let's talk about you now. Because your truth ain't necessarily the truth. In the sense that Paul, if you think about it from a relational perspective, most folk would say, I have a perception of you, a perception of truth about you. Now, men and women are very different when you talk about relationships. Because men typically marry women hoping they'll never change. Matter of fact, if he could have, the day your husband married you, he'd have froze you. Because when a man marries a woman, he's thinking, you know, she's just like. Don't change, don't change. So men marry women hoping they never change, and women marry men hoping to change them. Because most women take the posture, you know what? You know, he's a good man. He's a good one. All I gotta do. He just ain't had the right one on him yet. You got the right one now, baby, because I'm the one. I'm the one who can bring about a change in that. And then she discovers that men do what makes sense to men, and that really hurts her feelings. He go do what he want to do regardless of who you are. God bless you. God bless you. But the point of the idea is that men typically marry women hoping they'll change, and so women tend to marry men hoping to change them, which is why, okay, I'm not going to make this a full workshop, but this is why there's 3 stages marriages go through. The first stage is called the honeymoon stage, which can actually end on the day you get married. The second stage is actually called the disappointment stage. And for disappointment stage, for men, it can last up to 7 to 14 years, and for women, it can last 14 to 21 years based on how you respond. But the reason it lasts longer for women than it does for men is because when a woman marries a man, she already knows what she don't like about you. And so she's anticipating that in a relationship. So I want you to realize, though, that the third stage of a marriage is called the reality stage. See, the reality stage, you don't leave the disappointment stage until you move to reality. When you move to reality in a relationship, it's when you get to the place you stop expecting somebody else to make you happy. Amen. You got to conclude, okay, that's how you are. You know, that's how he is. He act like that, he talk like that, he be that way. So that's how you are. So actually, you feel better in the relationship. You actually feel better in your relationship when you stop trying to change your partner. That's completely free. So I want you to see here that Paul says now, he says, so now I want to understand. He said, well, how have we gone from being in a relationship where you treated me like I was an angel, you saw me like I was Jesus himself. So he asked the question, he said, have I now become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Now, okay, let me help you with this. When we say the truth, we all have our own perception of what truth is. That's why it's called history. It is his story, right? Your own story is called history. So, but understand, in relationships, the most crucial piece of relationships is communication. Yeah. But you're not born with a natural inclination to communicate. And communication is not having the ability to talk. It's having a good ability to listen. Amen. Because in good communication, it's not. I had a couple I worked with several years ago, and I met with them initially. I said, well, "How are you guys doing?" So, well, with some difficulties. I said, I said, how's the communication going? And he said, we talk. That's the problem now. We talk too much. She was saying we don't talk enough. Because in a relationship, okay, communication consists of two pieces. Right. Okay, there's communication, and this was called conflict. Now, for some couples, communication is conflict. Because to talk is to fight. But when you understand the concept of it, actually, what conflict is supposed to be, conflict is supposed to be what you have when you're communicating well. And you still don't agree. So in that case, you will talk about how to resolve conflict. Conflict is supposed to be the idea that I understand you, you understand me, we just disagree with each other. That's what conflict is supposed to be. However, instead of conflict, many folk battle with they think communication is conflict. Communication consists of two things. Communication consists of assertiveness and active listening. Now, you need this for even on your job when you talk to your kids. These are the key components to every good conversation. One is assertiveness. Assertiveness is your ability to ask for what you want. That's all it is. But that's not as simple as it sounds. Because you don't feel like you can ask for what you want. Because you don't think respect you or value you. So in a moment, let me say this. Men will seldom talk openly about how they feel. Right. Every now and then, they'll do that. The problem is not that they don't do that. The problem is that when they do it, women have a tendency to shut men down. Because men ain't gonna talk very often. And he don't need much to not talk. Okay. So the few times he will talk, if you ain't really listening right, you shut him down. I'll illustrate that. A man was talking to his wife, and she says to him, "Honey, tell me what can I do to be a better wife for you?" Now, first of all, that's a trick question. Because you don't ask a question like that unless you already think you got the answer. The perception is that he goes say, "Baby, you the best woman man could ever have it." And, I know I'm all right. But she didn't. she wasn't really anticipating an answer. Because be careful about asking questions that you don't really want to answer to. So she said, "Honey, won't you what can I do?" He said, "No, you're fine." She said, "No, we're not really. What can I do to be a better wife?" He said, "Baby, you're fine." She said, No, listen. I mean, I know I'm not perfect, and I know there's things I can do, and I can be. I'm sure there's something I can do. I just want to be the best I can be for you, and what more can I do to be the best I can be for you?" And so he said, "Well, you okay?" She said, "No, I didn't say anything. Surely there's something I can do." He said, "Well, maybe. I can tell you about something." "Well, I'd love to hear. I mean, there's actually something. I'd love to hear. He said, "Well, he said, "Well, sometimes I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to you, you don't listen to me. I think sometimes you have your mind on something different, and